Welcome students. So in this video we are going to talk about the weldability. Okay, the weldability. Actually, what is mean by weldability? Okay, so it is nothing but the ease with which the given material can be welded without producing any kind of defects into the weld is known as weldability. Please remember the definition of weldability is what? The ease with which the given material can be welded without producing any defects in the welding is known as the weldability. Okay, now which are the factors on which this weldability is dependent? So the first important parameter or factor that we have to consider, that is the melting point of a given material. Okay, so basically if you talk about the melting points, both the higher melting point materials or the lower melting point temperature materials are difficult to weld, but the medium temperature materials are very easy to weld. They are having very good weldability. If you take the example of say cast iron, so cast iron having a very high melting point, so there is of course difficulty for welding of the cast iron, but even though we can able to weld the cast iron with the preheating, or if the preheating is provided, we can also able to weld the cast iron. Okay, now if you look at the second point, that is the conductivity of or thermal conductivity of a given material. Okay, suppose the material having the huge thermal conductivity, so what will happen to that? So whatever the heat we are supplying for that material to get melt, so definitely the material is going to conduct that heat, and definitely the loss of heat because of conduction is more. Okay, so the net heat actually available at the joint will be lesser. So higher the thermal conductivity, we are having the lesser weldability. Okay, so this is the next factor. Third factor, we can have the reactivity. Okay, but because what is reactivity? So the materials like aluminum and magnesium, you know that these are very highly reactive materials, that is their oxide forming tendency is very high. That's why the oxidation of the weld is going to happen. That's why the material or the weld you are going to produce is definitely the defective one, isn't it? So that's why lesser will be the reactivity, higher will be the weldability. Please remember, that's why for the highly reactive materials like aluminum, magnesium, we are using the special welding techniques where the inert gases are provided to avoid the contamination of the weld. Okay, like TIG welding, MIG welding, okay, shielded arc welding processes. Okay, so reactivity should be less. Now if we take the fourth parameter or factor, that is the coefficient of thermal expansion. Coefficient of thermal expansion. So if this value of coefficient of thermal expansion is more, so the chances of having the residual stresses or crack formations are very high. That's why if the lower coefficient of thermal expansion is there, definitely weldability will be good, but if it is having the higher value, the weldability of the material is less. Okay, then the next point we are having, that is the surface conditions. See, if you talk about the surface condition, so the dirtiness of the weld is definitely not allowed. You should have the clean surfaces, otherwise what will happen? First of all, the heat, whatever heat is going to supply, will get wasted to remove the dirtiness of the plates, and you will get the not proper amount of heat into the weld. Therefore the surface conditions, that is cleanliness, is very important. We are not allowing any dirt or dust which are present on the workpiece material. So as dirt or dust particles are there present into the plates, definitely weldability is going to be minimum So to improve the weldability, you just clean the surfaces. Okay, and the next thing is that the resistance. So here the highly electrical resistance material, high electrical resistance material is treated as difficult to weld. Okay, to have the good weldability, it should be, the resistance should be minimum. Okay, so these are the certain factors which are going to affect the weldability. The ease with which the welding of a given material can be done is known as weldability. And what are the factors we have discussed? Melting point, then thermal conductivity of the material, then reactivity of the material, coefficient of thermal expansion of the material, whatever the surface conditions during the weld, and the electrical resistance. Okay, so please see. Thank you.